Good morning and welcome to the Stylo News Intelligence Update for March 17, 2026. Our focus this morning, a significant security crisis is now unfolding across the Americas. We're here to give you the essential facts.
Now, before we get to our main story, this intelligence briefing is made possible by our partners at ProWave AI. And to celebrate their first year of operations, they're offering a special discount for Stylo News subscribers. You can use the code STYLO, that's STYLO, at stylonews.com. This offer is good through the end of March for the first 250 subscribers.
So, let's get right to it. A new security crisis is taking shape across the Americas. What we're seeing is a new military coalition forming, really in direct response to a violent power vacuum. In this briefing, we're going to break down this new alliance, look at what triggered its creation, and examine the serious geopolitical divisions that are already emerging.
So first things first, let's look at the headline development, the formation of this new U.S.-led military coalition.
It's called the Shield of the Americas. Officially announced back on March 7th, its stated purpose is quite direct: to eradicate drug cartels using coordinated military action all across South and Central America.
And when you look at who's involved, the scope is, well, it's remarkably broad. It really stretches across the entire hemisphere. You have the United States, of course, but also Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guyana, Honduras, Panama, Paraguay, and Trinidad and Tobago. This membership seems very strategic, especially with nations like Ecuador, which is right on the front lines of cartel violence, and several Central American countries that are absolutely vital for disrupting trafficking routes.
And to really understand the mindset behind this coalition, we just have to look at the words of its main advocate. U.S. President Donald Trump has described the initiative as, and I quote, a hardline military approach to eradicate drug cartels, including missile strikes. Now, that phrase, missile strikes, signals a very significant shift toward direct and potentially overwhelming military force.
So, what could have possibly prompted such a dramatic move? To really get that, we have to look at the catalyst: a sudden and very violent shift in the cartel landscape throughout the region.
You see, the timeline here is absolutely critical. It all started on February 22nd, when Mexican military forces killed Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, better known as El Mencho, the leader of the incredibly powerful Jalisco New Generation cartel. His death almost immediately sparked a wave of reprisals. We're talking widespread violence across several Mexican states. Then, just 2 weeks later, on March 7th, President Trump announces the Shield of the Americas, explicitly framing it as a direct response to this growing instability in the region.
And the death of El Mencho had these cascading effects at every single level. Locally, right then in the state of Jalisco, the backlash was immediate and it was severe. It disrupted daily life, even hitting major tourism hubs. Then, on a national level, it created a really dangerous power vacuum. This sparked fears of wider gang wars. And all of this is happening just as Mexico is getting ready to co-host the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And internationally, well, it was a blow to global drug networks, for sure. But it also raised very serious concerns about spillover violence and the potential destabilization of the entire region.
All right, so we've gone from the political announcement. Let's now turn to the concrete actions being taken on the ground. This section is all about the coordinated military and law enforcement operations that are in fact already underway. As you can see here, the coalition is focusing its initial efforts on some very specific areas. These joint operations are actively targeting key trafficking corridors and production zones. The hotspots, as you might expect, include coca cultivation areas in places like Colombia and Ecuador, as well as those critical transit routes running through Central American nations, particularly Honduras. And make no mistake, these aren't just plans on a drawing board. These are actions already in motion. We have joint U.S.-Ecuador military operations that kicked off on March 3rd. Just a few days ago, on March 11th, the FBI opened a brand new office in Quito. On top of that, the U.S. has now designated 14 Latin American criminal groups as terrorist organizations. We're also seeing El Salvador's Navy conducting interdiction operations out in international waters, and Panama is stepping up its participation in the whole security framework. It all points to a very multifaceted and rapid rollout of operations.
But, and this is a big but, this new strategy is not being universally accepted, not by a long shot. So let's broaden our focus now to the geopolitical fallout and the very deep divisions this coalition has already started to create. And this is where you can really see the lack of a unified front. You have President Trump, who is the driving force behind this hardline military approach. Then, in sharp contrast, you have Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. She has flatly rejected any direct U.S. military intervention, stressing national sovereignty, though she is accepting intelligence cooperation. And then there's Colombian President Gustavo Petro, who has been very public in his criticism of his nation's exclusion, pointing out, quite rightly, its central role in the fight against cocaine production.
This is a situation that is changing by the day. So in our final section, we're going to outline the key things to watch for, the upcoming events you'll want to monitor in the weeks ahead.
Okay, here are 3 key developments to keep on your radar. First, the outcome of the FIFA security delegation's visit to Mexico. That's going to have huge implications for the World Cup. Second, keep a close eye on any escalating violence as different cartel factions start fighting to fill that power vacuum left by El Mencho. And third, a significant joint U.S.-Ecuadorian offensive was scheduled to begin just 2 days ago on March 15th. We will, of course, be monitoring reports from that operation very, very closely.
So this has been a high-level briefing on what is a very complex and developing story. If you want a deeper analysis of this crisis and all of its far-reaching implications, we invite you to search for the Stylo News Intelligence Update on your favorite podcast platform.
And that's our update for this morning. Thank you for joining us. To track global intelligence instantly and get AI-powered news on demand, you can subscribe at www.stylonews.com. We will continue to bring you the facts as they develop.